The Toronto Blue Jays took on the Tampa Bay Rays today, and some interesting things happened throughout the game. Vladimir Guerrero exited early with an apparent knee injury, so we'll break that down. Kevin Gausman struggled a little bit early on, but he found his rhythm in his second inning of work, and just overall, it was a bit of a struggle for the pitchers. So we'll break that down and much more in this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Now, the Jays and Rays wrapped up their spring training game today. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. exited a little bit early with a knee injury. Let's hope it's not too serious, but there were some interesting things that happened today, Nick.
Yeah, and it's a bit concerning considering that, of course, the spring training game and the World Baseball Classic is starting up, in very, very soon, about a week from now. But make sure to hit the subscribe button before we get into it. And let's just get into the first topic, which what we said before is a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. injury. And before we do describe it a bit, I'll just pop up a clip for you and we can, so we don't know if this is for sure what the injury is because the game, as of recording this, is about to end, but there hasn't been any comments on it yet. But this is what we think the injury would came from. Was his single in I believe it was the first inning. He ran to the bases and then there was an overthrow at home and then he continued and ran towards second and a little bit of a limp. Do you see anything super out of the ordinary here? Obviously, we don't know if this is the case, but a lot of the announcers as well said this is what they're thinking caused the injury.
Yeah. Yeah, well, once you round first base as a runner, you kind of stop and you patrol the outfield, you patrol what's going on to see if you can take that extra base. And I think the change of direction may have cost something for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because as soon as he changed direction over there, and we'll see it once again over here, so he seems okay there, just kind of jogging like Vladdy usually does, and then right there, the change of direction, you see a little bit of a
Hold
stumble.
up.
Now, I'm not
Yeah.
a doctor. I never claim to be a doctor, and I will never be a doctor either. But from my years of playing baseball, and I could tell you, I was not the fastest guy either rounding the bases. I think that's what it seems to be, and it's hope it's not serious because the World Baseball Classic is right around the corner, and that'll be good for Vladdy to get ready for the season because he's not fighting for a spot on the roster. We know where he's going to be. He's going to be in the middle of the order all year long, and if he can get competitive at bats like that, that'll only help him. And I want him to be there in the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, and we have a bit more intel. Obviously, this was tweeted as it happened. Ben Nicholson Smith said Vlad Guerrero Jr. out of the game after one at bat here in Florida. He singled, advanced to second on the throw, and with nearly 4 weeks remaining before opening day, there's little reason to push it in the face of any discomfort. Should learn more post game, and then of course halfway through the game we got the update from PR that it was it is right knee discomfort. So I don't know. It's a bit scary, and obviously now the question is, assuming it's not a serious injury, and if it's just a minor injury, will he play in the World Baseball Classic? Is of course the next big question, and something that I'm sure will be addressed over the next couple of days. And as well, after this game, we are expecting to have some sort of update hopefully within the next hour of this uploading. We'll try to have a short or something coming out for you guys there with the update, but hopefully it's not too serious. And do you have any final touches on that before we move on to the game
Yeah,
recap?
yeah, like Ben Nicholson Smith said, you don't want to push it, especially this early in spring training. So it's not worth it for him to come back and get another at bat and maybe tweak something else. So I think it's more precautionary at this point. It didn't look too serious. He was able to get off the field on his own power, so it doesn't look like a non-contact injury, just maybe a little jam. So, like I said, I'm not a doctor. We'll have more on it in a couple of hours, and we'll keep you posted.
Yep, sounds good. And let's get into I guess the next section, a bit more of a game recap, which kind of the story of this game was a mix of the pitchers struggling and the hitters kind of doing well. Honestly, despite having 4 runs as of now, the hitters didn't do anything too crazy today. A bit of small ball, which we'll get into, but focusing on the pitchers, what are your thoughts on, I guess, Kevin Gausman? And I'll pop up some clips there in case you missed it. But what were your thoughts on Kevin Gausman before we move on?
Yeah, it's just shaking off some rust for him, similar to what Alek Manoah went through the other day, yesterday, actually. Not very efficient in the first inning. Took him a lot of pitches, and it'll come. It'll come. The more starts he gets, he was also throwing to Rob Brantley today, a guy who's probably never caught him in his life, and similar to Alek Manoah as well yesterday. throwing to Danny Jansen, who he's not accustomed to behind the plate either. So, it's just all about shaking the rust off. We know where these guys are going to be similar to Vladdy. They're going to be 1 and 2 in the rotation. Now, you can either flip flop them wherever you want, but we know where they're going to be. We know that they're going to be key to the Toronto Blue Jays' success this season, and I'm not worried. His splitter looked good, though, for how early it is in spring training.
Yeah, and that's what we'll touch on now before moving into some of the other pitchers. I'll pop it up again in case you missed it. So it is, afternoon on a weekday. So this was two of his splitters. Obviously, the quality isn't great, but that's what we're going to happen. But a couple of really nice ones, and they were dying out. I'll pop it one more time for you. But like you said, obviously, he gave up, some hits and stuff like that. But overall, he looked very, pretty sharp with his splitter, especially. And some people on Twitter did some further digging here. Thomas Hall, he's a great Blue Jays writer. He says something to watch with Kevin Gausman this spring. His splitter spin rate, it averaged 1,571 RPM in 2022, 1,527 in 21, and then today over 1,700. And of course, it's only one outing, so take this as you will. But perhaps Gausman has added extra spin to his splitter. And honestly, this is kind of the stuff that you look for more in spring training as opposed to the actual results, because at the end of the day, he's not fighting for a job. So these results really mean nothing. It's a matter of tuning on his splitter. Maybe he's been working on that the whole offseason, and it's paying dues either way because it looked very, very good.
Yeah, and Kevin Gausman, he did what he had to do. You just got to ramp up a little bit your pitching and get ready for the season. But a guy that I was very disappointed with today was Trevor Richards, and we said it in the pregame, Nick. He's got to use his changeup a lot more, and when he did today, he had success. And whenever he threw fastballs, he got lit up. So it's just he's got to figure that out. And at this point, and I'm not going to overreact. It's been, I think, 2 years of Trevor Richards pitching that my thoughts are building up now in the sense that I think there are better options in the minor leagues, and that losing Trevor Richards on waivers may not be the end of the world for the Toronto Blue Jays, considering how he's performed early in the spring as well as the last 2 seasons with the Blue Jays.
Yeah, and I popped it up there while you were speaking. You can see, obviously, it's there's not many places to get the box score of these games, so you had to rely on this. But he went .2 innings, gave up 3 hits and a run, which was not very, obviously, like you said, not very good. He still has his plus changeup, but he just hasn't been good the past 2 years. And then anyone else, Peter, that impressed you? Obviously, Simber had a very, very rough outing, but I don't really put too much thought into that. Paul Fry did look good out there, and of course, Yasver Zueleta also looked very good, as he has all spring. But anyone else that impressed you before we move on to the hitters?
Yeah, Paul Fry was very solid. The defense let him down. They committed 2 errors when he was in there. He was firing in strikes. He looked solid. Yasver Zulueta started off his outing very strong as well. He got 2 outs on 7 pitches and looked like he was headed for a 1-2-3 inning. He's inducing a lot of weak contact. Then there was a hit up the middle that was like a seeing eye base hit. Then he started to lose control of the strike zone a little bit. So he wasn't as sharp as his first outing, in which he had a 6 pitch, 3 up, 3 down inning. But the velocity was there. The slider looked very good for him, and he's been very impressive. He's got a chance to contribute later on in the season for Toronto.
Yeah, and like I said in the pregame, there's tons of people battling for that final roster spot. But let's get into some of the hitters now, because they did do well. But specifically, I'll let you touch on this, Peter, was the base running was very, very good. I'll pop up the box score here for the hitters, and you can see George Springer had a very good game. He drove in a run. Vladdy, of course, had a very solid game. He got the hit and the RBI before being taken out. Vershow didn't do a whole lot. Chapman continues to impress a little bit, and Kevin Biggio has also been hitting the ball very, very well. But one thing we're going to touch on now is the base running. There wasn't any crazy home runs today, nothing, super exciting. But Peter, you wanted to touch on the base running, and also have a screenshot that I'll pop up in a second here from that. But what were your thoughts on the base running this afternoon, and just the type of game the Jays are playing, specifically using their speed with the small ball?
Yeah, we haven't seen much power out of the Toronto Blue Jays so far in the spring, and that's okay. The hitters are also starting to ramp it up, and they'll find their swings and get more power as the season goes along. But they're playing a decent brand of small ball, and what's really stood out to me in the first couple of games, maybe not the last 2 or 3 games, has been the 2 out hitting. They've been driving in runs with 2 outs. Santiago Espinal has been doing a very good job of that. Kevin Kiermaier has been instrumental on the bases, and we see the impact that the new guys are making. Dalton Varsho stole a base, like you mentioned to me on text before. So we see the new guys making an impact on the base pass, putting pressure on the opposing defenses. And that's what you got to do, because the bigger bases are catered to more stealing. The pitch clock is favored to help you run the bases more effectively, and I'd like to see that more as the spring rolls along. And I want to see the Jays get more comfortable with that brand of baseball, small ball.
Yeah, and one thing I'll pop open here was some analysis from someone, obviously Thomas Hall again. He said, Bo Bichette is determined to run his tail off on the bases this season, and I love every bit of it. And that's kind of the theme for the whole club. Like you said, and I mentioned to you in text, Varsho walked and then he stole a base, leading to some stuff. And it happened in other games, just lots of, even, people like Bo Bichette getting caught trying to steal or even just like leaning off first and getting caught. That's fine for spring training because you
Right.
want to get used to the base running. It's something that John Schneider is preaching there, and to see Bo Bichette, or at least people noticing Bo Bichette running his tail off, is very, very good, and it's a different brand of baseball than what we've been used to for the past couple of years. But do you have any final thoughts on any of the other hitters that impressed before we move on to just the final news topic?
Yeah, like you said early on in the video, it's not about the results. I don't care if you steal in spring training and you get caught. You got to see what's out there, and you got to find a rhythm as a base runner to try and time up that pitch clock. Like I said, it's catered for you to steal bases. So if you can figure out, okay, with 7 seconds, he's not even looking at me anymore, I could steal. I could get a good jump here. And that's what Bo Bichette did. So I want to see that more out of 1 through 9 in the lineup, and I'm very excited to see if they can keep it up all season long.
Yeah, I agree, and hopefully they're able to keep it up. And also, we have an update for any of you who made it this far. The Jays game did just end, and Reiner Nunez walked it off, so the Jays do win 7-6. So, in case you made it this far and wanted to know the score, they did walk it off. Addison Berger almost had the chance to walk it off, but he ended up walking. But yeah, I agree. Hopefully they can keep up the great spring, and overall the hitters and the base running, the atmosphere around the club feels great. And we'll quickly move into the final topic just for a second. Just a little tiny bit of Jays news for you guys, as Desan Brown, a fairly long time Jays prospect, has officially been added to Team Canada for the World Baseball Classic, and he's hit fairly well at the minor league levels. Peter, do you have any quick thoughts on this before we wrap up? Just wanted to throw this out there to give Desan Brown, fellow Canadian, a shout out.
Yeah, I'm very excited to watch the World Baseball Classic. It's probably one of my favorite international tournaments of any sport, and I'm super stoked for that. Desan Brown is actually a top 15 prospect now for the Toronto Blue Jays. So the top 30 recently came out on MLB.com. We'll be reacting to that very shortly for you guys in a news video that we'll have. But yeah, Desan Brown, very exciting prospect. Hits for some power. Played on the Canadian junior national team with a couple of guys that I played with, and he's very fast, very good player, and hopefully he can break the big league club someday.
Yeah, maybe we'll see him in the future. Maybe we'll see him this year in a Dalton Pompey role from 2015. Something like that could be possible. But thank you guys so much for the support. It's been unbelievable. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you guys in tomorrow's video or stream.
Thanks.